This is the S6 e-Tron, the latest in a long line of fast, practical Audis. It's a car that on paper doesn't force you to choose between pace and space, between technology and driver involvement, or between performance and efficiency. And it's refreshing because whilst most companies tend to focus on crossovers or SUVs, Audi is delivering, as it always has done, by giving us a wagon. Yes, friends, this is Audi's first ever electrified premium performance estate. And colour me interested because the specs on this thing look very good. 2 motors, 550 PS, 855 Newton meters. It's gonna be fast. Audi reckon it will do 0 to 62 in 3.9 seconds, which, let's face it, not long ago was supercar territory. So forgive me if I indulge in a bit of scientific analysis. And when I say that, I mean I'm just gonna pull over and launch it. Right. Dynamic mode. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, although I suppose now it's the e-Tron pedal, isn't it? Head back for safety, go. Oh. Oh. It's like being punched. That is vivid acceleration. There's a bit of sound to it as well, a tiny bit of character. It's a quick car. It's quicker than an RS4, not quite as quick as an RS6, but still, if you like performance, you're gonna like this. If you like wagons, you'll like the way it looks too. The S6 and less powerful A6 are both available in Avant, that's estate, and fastback forms, that's a very saloon-looking hatchback. We'll have more on the A6 fastback in just a moment, but in the meantime, let's indulge in the looks of this wagon. Some highlights. Let's start with this badge, actually. I think it's very cool. It's nice and upright, and I like the way it's almost etched into the rest of the bonnet. And if you look closely, you'll notice it's almost got a pair of eyes just here. The 2 central Audi rings are like eyes. That camera is a nose and then a little smiley face down below. Very cute. This grille is nice and smooth, as you'd expect. It's an electric car. Not so sure about these little silver plastic trim elements, but you can get those finished in black. And when you do, it gives it, in combination with this black element here, a kind of mask effect, which means that these things, those are your headlights, kind of blend in with the rest of the black. And that's allowed Audi to have these super thin DRLs just here to give it a mean aesthetic. Incidentally, you can customize the DRL pattern with up to 8 different designs. It's a bit of a gimmick, but something nice to show off to your friends. Round the side, nice, elegant design, sitting on big wheels. So 245/40 R21s up front and narrower 235 R21s in the back. Kind of a staggered approach to give the car a bit more grip on the front end. You've also got cameras instead of proper mirrors, more on those in just a second. A little button instead of having a proper handle, but they work really well. And then soft close, front and rear. Plus, on this B pillar, you got the Audi nameplate and the car name as well, S6 Avant e-Tron Quattro, if you're interested. And down here, you've got a piece of trim with the e-Tron nameplate on. And then back here, very interestingly, it's also got 2 charge ports, one on either side, and they are both motorized. So you push that and it opens up. They probably could have saved a bit of money by not offering that, but yeah, it's a nice touch. One thing I'm not so keen on is this silver trim just above the windows. It's okay from about this point onwards, but then it gets to the back and it kicks up slightly, which just looks a bit, just not quite right to me. Luckily, you can get that finished in black where it's a lot less noticeable. Around the back, it is a gorgeous piece of design, especially if you like big butts and you cannot lie, which I do. I really appreciate the fact it's got this illuminated Audi 4-ring design, nice big light bar just here, and some OLED elements for your rear brake lights. Incidentally, these serve a couple of functions. If a pedestrian walks up to your car, these will illuminate to warn them to get away from your fancy Audi. Plus, the OLED elements can show a warning symbol to drivers coming up behind you in case of danger just up front. Yeah, I mean, it's a glorious thing to look at. It just brings a smile to my face looking at the back of this car. And speaking of putting smiles on faces, just excuse me a second. Right, you not probably know this, but every month Auto Trader give away an electric car. And I've only forgotten to give the winner their car, so I'm going to call him right now. 2 secs. Hi, am I speaking to John?
Yes, hi.
It's Rory from Auto Trader. Do you mind if we record this call? I mean, we are. You're on camera.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great, great. Well, I have some news. I'm pleased to say that you have won a brand new electric car.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You've won an Audi Q8 e-Tron, and a magnificent car it is too.
Amazing, really. Nothing like this has ever happened to me before, so yes.
I'm really pleased for you. Listen, while you're here, actually, I'm in another Audi. This is the S6 e-Tron, and I'm actually in the middle of doing a YouTube video, and I thought, I'll talk about the interior. You stick around and listen, because it might be fairly relevant to you. We've got the brand new Audi MMI system in this S6. It's got 3 different screens, believe it or not. It's got one for the driver, which is about 11 inches, one for your infotainment, which is a bit bigger, about 14 inches, and the third screen for your passenger. What's nice about that passenger screen is that you can actually view things on the infotainment system, you can play games, you can actually watch YouTube and films. And I know what you're thinking, John. You're thinking, isn't that distracting for the driver? Well, it's not, because there's a special kind of filter over the screen that stops the driver seeing the video when it's playing. That's pretty cool. But also the general speed of the infotainment system is massively quick. I'll go into the map system. I mean, look at that. That is lightning quick. You can actually see I'm in the Canary Islands there, and then I can switch to other apps like games and other built-in things. It's got ChatGPT, lightning quick. It's really, really good. It's a bit better than the one you've got in your Q8 e-Tron, unfortunately. You might have to enter again and then maybe try and win this car, but it's fantastic. One thing I don't like about it is the fact it's got no physical buttons in it. It's got a volume knob, but all the kind of buttons for the heating are virtual. Oh, and here's something else that's annoying, mate, is that you can actually choose themes in this car. So you can get like a background, which is like soccer or baseball or whatever, but you've got to pay like, I think, 10 euros for each of the different themes, which is slightly annoying. But generally, yeah, interior in this S6, absolutely fantastic. You still there? Hello? Hello? Some people. If John had stuck around, he might have been pleased to learn that the A and S6 Avant have as many as 4 USB ports, a wireless charging pad, and usefully sized cubby spaces. And speaking of spaces, they also come with large boots, which you can open hands-free with the help of a handy light projector showing you exactly where to kick. Both cars provide 502 litres, although the estate has slightly more room above the parcel shelf due to its higher roofline. Drop the rear seats and space increases to a healthy 1,330 litres. But that's not all. If you require extra storage, you can rub the nose of the car as long as you have the keys on you, and you'll find an additional 74 litres, which comes in handy for things like your charging cable. John might also have been pleased to note the copious amount of room in the back. The S6 has useful amounts of headroom, footroom, and legroom, more than you might find on alternatives like the Porsche Taycan, along with a fold-down armrest for extra cup holders, plus the middle seat folds down for quick access to the boot or for carrying long objects. There's even a fancy new electrochromic panoramic glass sunroof that lets in more or less light at the push of a button. The first thing you notice when you drive this thing is how quiet and comfortable it is. We've got double glazing, acoustic glass everywhere, so when you jump in, it's very, very peaceful. You're also going to immediately notice these electronic wing mirrors, which take a while to get used to, because instinctively, when you look into them, you're kind of looking where the mirrors should be, but instead you've got to look slightly lower and further forward to actually see the screen, which itself is at a slightly weird angle. You can adjust it by rubbing your finger across it, but it's just not the same as a real system. Props to Audi though, because they have actually positioned it in a sensible place. The location of the screen is a lot better than on some rival cars. The next thing you'll immediately notice is the stereo system. Bang & Olufsen, 830 watts, 20 speakers, and 4 of those speakers live in the headrest, and that means you get this lovely 3D effect when you're listening to music. It's almost like the artist's voice is playing right next to your ear, a bit like wearing headphones, but in a headrest. You can also listen to sat-nav directions through the headrests and listen to phone calls as well. And you can actually adjust the volume of the phone calls so you can discreetly listen to your calls without other people in the car hearing what you're talking about. That's very cool. You'll also notice that unlike the A6, the S6 comes with air suspension as standard. Although the roads I used in Tenerife were very smooth, I think the car should fare well even on some of the worst roads in the UK. The suspension isn't as clever as the leaning and self-leveling suspension found on the flagship e-Tron GT, but it does a solid job. In terms of range, the S6 promises around 400 miles according to WLTP figures. If going further is important, then you'll want to go for the less powerful A6, the rangiest of which is the performance version, which promises a whopping 469 miles on a single charge. But of course, promises are meant to be broken, and in the real world, things are slightly less impressive. In my hands, it only managed around 300 miles on a charge. Why is that? It's got all the right ingredients. It's got aero wheels, low friction tires. They're supposed to add 7 kilometers of range. It's got skinny digital cameras instead of wing mirrors. Those are meant to add another 7 kilometers. It's got adaptive suspension, which drops the car lower to make it slipperier. That adds another 6 kilometers. And then there's the overall shape of the car, which is meant to add another 14 kilometers of range. But in the real world, the range ain't really ranging. And I'm not blaming Audi for that. I am blaming the WLTP for their, quite frankly, very ambitious range figures. Not ambitious, I meant rubbish. For context, the faster S6, in my hands anyway, managed pretty similar levels of efficiency. So don't let the S badge put you off if you're looking for a car that's efficient. Both cars offer fantastic charging speeds of up to 270 kilowatts if you can find a fast enough charger. That's quick enough to go from 10 to 80% battery in 21 minutes, or to add 310 kilometers of range in just 10 minutes. But enough about the sensible stuff. I'll tell you what, it is stunningly fast, especially going from lower speeds when you just mash the throttle and it leaps forward. We're used to seeing that in electric cars. It's nothing new, but still, it's a lot of fun. I dread to think what the RS6 will be like when that comes out. I mean, the RS e-Tron GT has what, 925 horsepower? It'll do 0 to 62 in what, 2.5 seconds? Imagine that level of grunt in this package. Super exciting. But I'll tell you what, 550 horsepower? That's plenty for me right now. The brakes are complicated and interesting. The car can slow itself down using regeneration on the rear axle only, the front and rear axle together, as well as with the friction brakes. Which combination of braking effort gets applied depends on the speed you're traveling at, and you could be forgiven for thinking it would lead to inconsistent and messy brake feel. But that's usually not the case. And the regen effect is super strong. It can recoup up to 220 kilowatts, which means going down a hill, as I am now, I'm feeding back as much power into the battery as a high-powered charger. Plus, you've got these paddles behind the steering wheel. The left one increases the regen and the right one decreases the regen, which means as you approach a bend, if you pull it several times, effectively you're adding what feels like engine braking. It's obviously not quite like using a DCT, but it does add another dimension to the driving experience. Audi says they've done a lot of work on the steering to make the car more agile and engaging. I wouldn't agree that that's one of this car's best selling points. In fact, it kind of feels as if you're driving using the steering wheel from a computer game. It doesn't make you feel quite as connected to the car as I'd really like. But having said that, it's still quite a lot of fun to chuck it through the bends. The batteries are nice and low in the chassis, so the center of gravity is low. The body control is really good in this car, and there is plenty of grip. Okay, if you go too fast into a corner, you can start to understeer, but you would expect that from a big, heavy electric car. Having said all that though, it's a lot of fun to drive. So how do we sum up this car? Well, I could probably do it in 3 words. I like it. A lot. Okay, that's 5 words, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's a really welcome addition to the automotive landscape. It offers space and pace, performance and efficiency, and it's going to appeal to people who are sick of seeing so many crossovers and SUVs on the market. It's good, solid fun. It ticks most of the boxes you'd want in a car, and I don't know about you, but it's really whetting my appetite for the electric RS6. Watch this space.